someone who likes to eat ice cream even in the dead of winter, you're not alone. This video combines two of my favorite recipes, and the result is the cool creaminess of a summer dessert with the warm, wintry flavor of ginger. So delicious. I'm starting with brown sugar. This is a 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons, or roughly 6 tablespoons. And to that I'm adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil. You could use coconut oil. You could also use coconut sugar, which would just be a really nice, dark, rich color, the kind of color of gingerbread that we want. And I'm just stirring these two together to loosen any clumps. It sort of creates a little paste for us to start our gingerbread. To that we add 2 tablespoons of milk, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, and our spices, a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and then of course our dominant flavor, which is ginger, so we're going for 3/4 of a teaspoon. And then of course a healthy pinch of salt in anything sweet. I'm going to mix these all together before we add our flour. Because this is a no-bake recipe, we don't need any baking powder or baking soda. And then the flour. We're just going to add a little bit at a time because it will become a very thick and dense dough. So you want to be very gentle with it. You'll notice that I'm using a fork and not a whisk. This just works for me. My whisk is huge and it would just get all clumpy. This fork works quite nicely. So you add a little more, and you notice that the dough gets really thick as you go along. And then on the last bit, you just have to get in there with your hands. And then you've got this ball of gingerbread. And then the fun part is choosing whatever little shapes you want to make it into. You could easily just take off pieces and roll them into little balls that you can put into your ice cream, or you can cut them into thick chunks and just dunk them in there like that. Maybe slightly smaller chunks where you make little cubes of the gingerbread. But I don't recommend rolling it out like gingerbread with a rolling pin. You want those really nice thick bits in your gingerbread ice cream. And then of course 1 or 2 to taste test. This recipe is a cashew-based ice cream. I'm using the same one that I did in my cookie dough video, which you can find up in the corner. I'm starting with 2 cups of soaked cashews. They're raw cashews, soaked for at least an hour. You just want to get the texture as pliable as possible before you go ahead and blend them. It just makes them really easy to work with. And then I'm going to add just about a 1/2 cup of water, just to get them blended to start, and then I'll put in the rest of everything. So we blend this up until it has a really smooth, creamy texture. And then once we're almost there, I'm going to add the rest of my water. So I've got 2 cups cashews to 1 cup water. And then, things to sweeten it up, a 1/2 cup of maple syrup, a teaspoon of vanilla, and of course a little pinch of salt. And then we blend it the rest of the way. After about 30 seconds to a minute, it should have the consistency of a melted milkshake. There are a few techniques to making homemade ice cream, but I'm going to use one of my favorite appliances, which is the ice cream maker. This bowl takes at least 8 hours to freeze solid, so it does take a little planning in advance, but if you are anything like me and my husband, we always keep one bowl in the freezer at all times, you know, just in case. So you never know when the need for ice cream strikes. So I'm going to put this on the base with the churning attachment and the lid, and I'll get it rolling, and then I'll pour everything in. After about 10 minutes, it should all come together and look like it's ready to be eaten, and that's the time to throw in the gingerbread pieces. Let them swirl around very lightly because we don't want to overmix them. So it's not the dead of winter yet here, but it is cold and rainy outside, and I'm perfectly content to be inside in shorts eating ice cream. So for the taste test, I'm going to get a little bit of the gingerbread that got mixed in, and then I saved a couple for the end to just throw on top. You can top it with a little extra brown sugar too. Oh, it's so good. Creamy, cold, but somehow very heartwarming. Happy holidays!